Imagine this. You walk into a room and the tension is thick. Deadlines are looming, mistakes have been made, and all eyes are on you, the leader. At that moment, you have a choice. Do you let stress dictate your response, snapping under pressure? Or do you pause, take control of the moment, and lead with confidence and clarity? Leadership is not about having all the answers. It's about how you show up, especially when things aren't going as planned. The ability to lead without losing your cool is not just a skill, it's an art. And at the heart of that art is emotional intelligence. Most people go through life believing they are in control of their actions, their choices, their leadership. But the truth, most of us are running on autopilot. Think about it. How many times have you reacted to a situation without even thinking? A tense email lands in your inbox, and before you know it, you're typing out a sharp response. A team member makes a mistake, and frustration rises before you even have time to process what happened. Someone challenges your idea in a meeting, and suddenly you're defensive, pushing back harder than necessary. These moments don't just happen in a vacuum, they're patterns. And the problem isn't the external situation, it's the fact that most people aren't even aware of how they're reacting. We all have triggers. Every leader, no matter how experienced, has emotional triggers. Some of us get impatient when things don't move fast enough. Others feel personally attacked when an idea is questioned. Some shut down in conflict while others go into fight mode. These reactions aren't random. They're built over years of experience, shaped by our past, our beliefs, and our fears. The problem is that if we don't recognize these patterns, they control us. Imagine a leader who grew up in an environment where mistakes weren't tolerated. Maybe they had parents, teachers, or early bosses who punished failure harshly. Over time, they learned to associate mistakes with danger. So now, as a leader, every time a team member messes up, they instinctively react with anger or disappointment. Not because they choose to, but because their brain has been wired to treat mistakes as threats. Now imagine another leader, someone who was constantly dismissed or ignored earlier in their career. They learned that if they didn't fight for their voice to be heard, they'd be overlooked. So now, whenever someone disagrees with them in a meeting, they react aggressively, not because they want to, but because they feel like they're fighting for survival. These reactions are not conscious decisions. They're emotional habits. And the only way to break them is to become aware of them. The space between stimulus and response. There's a quote often attributed to Viktor Frankl that says, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." That space is everything. When we act out of habit, when we let emotions take the driver's seat, we lose that space. Something happens and we react instantly. No thought, no pause, just instinct. But great leaders don't operate on instinct alone. They create space. They feel the frustration, but instead of snapping, they take a breath. They recognize the defensiveness rising, but instead of shutting down, they ask a question. They sense the stress creeping in, but instead of making a rash decision, they take a moment to think. This is the difference between leaders who are controlled by their emotions and leaders who control their emotions. Self-awareness is a leadership superpower. A leader who lacks self-awareness is unpredictable. Their team doesn't know which version of them will show up each day. Will it be the calm, rational leader or the one who snaps under pressure? A leader who lacks self-awareness blames others for their emotions. I wouldn't be angry if they just did their job. I wouldn't be so stressed if this team was more competent. I wouldn't have to yell if people just listened. But a leader with self-awareness, they recognize that the way they feel isn't always the truth. Just because they feel disrespected doesn't mean the other person meant to be disrespectful. Just because they feel angry doesn't mean the situation is out of control. Just because they feel overwhelmed doesn't mean they have to act from that place. When leaders develop self-awareness, they stop being victims of their emotions. Start noticing the patterns. So how do you build self-awareness? You start by noticing. Start paying attention to your emotions before they take over. When do you feel your patience slipping? What situations make you defensive? Who on your team triggers frustration in you the fastest? What kind of feedback do you struggle to hear? How does your body react to stress? Does your jaw tighten, your heart race, your shoulders tense? These are signals, clues. Your emotions are telling you something, but they are not in control. The more you recognize these patterns, the more power you have over them. The next time you feel frustration creeping in, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, is my reaction serving me? Is this the leader I want to be? Because control doesn't start with willpower, it starts with awareness. Trust isn't built when things are easy, it's built in the moments when everything feels like it's falling apart. Think about it. When is the last time you truly trusted someone? Was it because they said the right words, because they had the right credentials, because they were nice to you on a good day? No. Trust isn't built through convenience, it's built through experience. And the most defining experiences happen when things get hard. Crisis reveals character. Anyone can lead when the sun is shining, when the plan is working, when the numbers are good. But real leadership is tested when the pressure is on, when the deal is falling through, when the deadline is looming, when the team is burned out and morale is low. That's when people start looking around, searching for something solid, something reliable. In those moments, the question running through everyone's mind isn't, does this leader have a good strategy? It's, can I count on them? Because when a leader panics, the team panics. When a leader blames, the team turns on each other. But when a leader stays steady, when they show up with clarity, with confidence, with focus, that's when trust is built. Not because they have all the answers, but because they create the certainty that no matter what happens, they're not going to break under pressure. People don't follow titles, they follow certainty. There are plenty of people in leadership positions who aren't trusted. They have the title, the authority, the decision-making power, but people don't trust them. Why? Because trust isn't about position, it's about consistency. If a leader is calm one day and explosive the next, people hesitate around them. If a leader is supportive when things are good but dismissive under stress, people keep their distance. If a leader preaches values but abandons them in the tough moments, people learn to stop believing in them. Trust isn't about what you say, it's about what you prove when things get difficult. Because people don't follow perfection, they follow certainty. And certainty doesn't mean always knowing the right answer. It means showing up with the same steadiness, the same integrity, the same level-headedness, no matter what's happening around you. Tough moments are your leadership legacy. When people talk about great leaders, they don't talk about the easy days. They talk about the moments that mattered. They talk about the boss who stood up for them when they made a mistake. The leader who took responsibility when the team failed instead of pointing fingers. The manager who stayed calm in a crisis and made everyone feel like they could handle it. The executive who made the tough call but did it with empathy and transparency. The moments of stress, of chaos, of uncertainty, those are the moments people remember. And the question is, when those moments come, what will they remember about you? Trust is earned in the way you handle pressure. There's a saying that goes, pressure doesn't create cracks, it reveals them. When things go wrong, when the stakes are high, when emotions are running wild, people show you who they really are. Some leaders deflect. They blame external factors, the economy, the market, their team, anyone but themselves. Others shut down, avoiding responsibility, waiting for someone else to step in and fix things. Some leaders panic, scrambling for quick fixes that don't solve the real issue. But the best leaders, they do something different. They take a breath, they assess the situation with clarity. They don't make impulsive decisions just to relieve the stress of the moment. They communicate with transparency, giving their team the confidence to keep moving forward. And most importantly, they own the situation. They don't point fingers. They don't pretend everything is fine. They take responsibility. they make the tough calls, and they do it in a way that builds confidence, not fear. And when people see that, when they see a leader who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't compromise their integrity, who doesn't let fear dictate their decisions, that's when trust is built. Not in the easy moments, not in the wins, but in the tough, defining moments where character is revealed. We've been conditioned to believe that strong leadership means making tough decisions, driving results, and staying focused on the big picture. And while all of that is true, there's something missing, something that separates great leaders from average ones. It's not intelligence. It's not experience. It's not even charisma. It's empathy. Empathy is not just a soft skill. It's not a nice to have. It's a superpower. Because at its core, leadership is not about authority. It's about people. And if you don't understand people, if you don't connect with people, you're not leading. You're just managing. People don't follow you because of your title. They follow you because they feel understood. Think about a time when you truly felt valued at work. A time when you were motivated, engaged, and willing to go the extra mile, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. Chances are that moment wasn't about a paycheck. It wasn't about a fancy title. It wasn't about an annual bonus. And it was about how you were treated. It was about feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling like your work mattered, and that the person leading you cared about what you were going through. That's empathy. Empathy is not about being nice. It's about understanding what people need and acting on it. It's recognizing that the employee who missed a deadline might not be lazy, they might be struggling with something at home. It's understanding that the team member who seems disengaged isn't necessarily unmotivated. They might not feel safe speaking up. It's knowing that when people aren't performing at their best, the solution isn't always more pressure, it's more support. Empathy builds loyalty. Loyalty drives performance. There's a reason people stay in jobs where they feel valued, even when they could be making more money somewhere else. Because people don't leave companies, they leave leaders. And the leaders who built the strongest teams, the teams that perform at the highest level, are not the ones who demand respect, they're the ones who earn it through trust, understanding, and genuine care for the people they lead. When leaders lead with empathy, they create an environment where people feel safe. And when people feel safe, they don't waste energy worrying about whether they're going to be thrown under the bus. They don't waste time covering up mistakes out of fear. They don't hold back ideas because they're scared of looking stupid. Instead, they focus on the work, they take risks, they speak up, they invest more of themselves in the mission because they know their leader has their back. That's the power of empathy. It turns a group of individuals into a team. Empathy is the difference between compliance and commitment. There are two ways to get people to do what you ask. One is through authority. You tell them what to do and they do it because they have to. They follow the rules, they meet expectations, they stay within the lines because that's the requirement, that's compliance. The other is through understanding. You listen, you support, you make people feel valued. And in return, they don't just do the job, they bring their best ideas, their full energy, their passion, not because they have to, but because they want to. That's commitment. And here's the thing, compliance has limits. It gets the job done, but nothing more. Commitment, on the other hand, creates innovation. It drives people to go beyond what's expected. It turns an ordinary workplace into an extraordinary one. Empathy doesn't mean lowering standards, it means understanding what people need to meet them. There's a misconception that being an empathetic leader means lowering expectations, going easy on people, or avoiding tough conversations. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The best leaders hold high standards. They expect excellence. They push their teams to grow. But they do it in a way that supports people instead of breaking them down. Empathy is not about making excuses, it's about recognizing what's really going on and responding in a way that actually solves the problem. If an employee is underperforming, an empathetic leader doesn't ignore it. They lean in, they ask, what's happening, what's getting in your way, how can I help? Maybe they need better training. Maybe they're struggling with burnout. Maybe they're dealing with something personal that's affecting their work. Whatever it is, an empathetic leader seeks to understand first, then act. And when people feel understood, they want to do better. They push themselves not out of fear, but out of a desire to contribute. The best leaders make people feel seen. At the end of the day, people don't remember every project they worked on. They don't remember every meeting, every deadline, every deliverable. They remember how they were treated. They remember the leader who took 5 extra minutes to check in when they were struggling. The leader who listened instead of dismissing. The leader who made them feel like more than just an employee, like a person who mattered. Because when people feel seen, they give their best. And that's what leadership is all about. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about setting the tone. The way you handle pressure, the way you treat people, and the way you carry yourself in tough moments define the trust, loyalty, and confidence of those around you. Composure, empathy, awareness, these aren't just leadership traits. They're forces that shape the culture of your team, the resilience of your people, and the legacy you leave behind. Because in the end, people won't remember the strategies or the spreadsheets. They'll remember how you made them feel.